All right. So, episode 20 with Josh Atusanya. I'm really sure that everyone saw you on TikTok or IG in any way. Man, I really want to talk about content creation with you, but before I want to get to know you more as Josh, not just that guy that you see on TikTok that does this awesome laugh at the end that is kind of your signature. So, uh, I want to ask two questions, but I will just ask one that maybe you will, in a way, share a story that relates to how you got to this point in life. And I wanted to ask you, what were the decisions that got you from wherever you were before to where you are now, whether it's a state of mind, whether it's career or life?
Yeah, the biggest thing, it was a state of mind. So the biggest thing that I realized was that up until things started changing, number one, I didn't have a clear and defined plan. So I read a book called Magic Ladder to Success by Napoleon Hill. And that was one of the biggest points he touched on in the book. He said a lot of successful people, from the people he studied, because I think he spent over 2 decades just studying successful people.
Yeah,
And he said that he noticed all of them had a very clear and defined and specific goal. I didn't have one. I was just kind of running around doing whatever.
yeah,
And
I
not only
totally
that,
relate, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
and not only that, I was all over the place. So I didn't pick one thing and only focus on that. I was over here for a little bit, then I was over here for a little bit, then I was over here, and everything switched when I said I put everything to the side. And honestly, it was mainly because of the pandemic. I was forced to only focus on social media.
yeah.
So putting all my effort, all my energy, everything into that is when stuff changed. I mean, my schedule was literally wake up, eat food, make videos, go to sleep
Yeah,
every single.
yeah, man. But there's this one thing that do you think that to a certain extent, maybe, or maybe not personally you, but can someone, maybe me, I've been feeling all over the place lately. I want to do this and this and this and that, but I feel like I cannot, dedicate enough energy to everything. So I have to make something count. But do you think that some people can do more than one thing at once and make them great, not just average?
I definitely think it's possible. Now, I do think that when you do that, you do run the risk of spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah,
But it's all about knowing how you work the best. So for me, I'm a horrible multitasker. And as much as I try, I'm not good at focusing on multiple things at once. So I know some people that can juggle multiple things at once and they're crushing it. So it's all about knowing how you work best. So self awareness is big in all of this stuff.
yeah, yeah. And you told me that it got to a point where your schedule was like you just wake up, eat breakfast, and create videos. But why did you decide to do this? Maybe the pandemic had a certain effect that left you to only choose social media, or maybe it was the option that works the best. But did you do it just because you had to, or because it works, or you are actually enjoying it?
Yeah, so it's because I really enjoyed it. So prior to like the TikTok stuff, the Instagram stuff, and everything, I was on social media for years since middle school, but even
Yeah,
more so in 2015 when I was trying to create videos on a weekly basis on you. I spent like 4 or 5 years on YouTube to no success, and I had a
yeah,
blog Quora where I wrote like 500 articles. I'll just wake up and drop like 3 articles every day. Not no success there. I tried Twitter.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was all over the place, just
yeah,
throwing content. So I always had a passion for wanting to help and entertain people. So, and then also I do stand up comedy, so I perform and entertain in that sense as well. And I knew that social media was always going to be a piece of making it into an actual career. So
yeah,
that all kind of fed into
yeah.
wanting to content.
So when you actually started creating the type of content that we are seeing today, when you started, did you know that it might turn into a career, a full-time thing, or you just decided to, okay, I'm gonna start with this and see where it will get me?
Yeah. So when I started in, I would say 2015 ish, I did start it thinking, oh, I'll see where this gets me. But
Yeah,
by 2020-ish, when the pandemic was about to start, I was already in the mind state of let's try to make this into a thing. I just need to
yeah,
find the right strategy. And once that strategy is found, I'm just gonna put my head down and
yeah,
go as hard as possible. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so in your bio on IG, you say you're life advice wizard, right? So I'm gonna ask for a lot of advice in this podcast. So there's something that I just crossed my mind. Uh, do you think it's okay to like whatever you're doing? Let's say you, for example, you're doing the social media thing. You think, can you always be in a state of mind where, okay, I'm going to see where this gets me, and when you get to some place, okay, I'm going to continue with this and again see which opportunities come? Or do you think there has to be a point where you must be aware of where this is going, or at least have some sort of a plan, or you can always just keep doing what you're doing?
That is such a good question because it's really difficult. It's really difficult to
Yeah,
because you need to have an element of persistence and I got to see where this is going. I can't give up on it. I got to keep going. But at the same time, you also have to have that awareness to know if something may not be working. So I mean, I had
yeah,
spent like I mentioned earlier, 4 or 5 years on YouTube just putting up that camera and trying to crank out videos on a weekly basis. And there was always a little voice in me that was like, "Oh, Josh, I don't really think this is really working right now.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know, and it wasn't until I took a chance with TikTok. I mean, I had tried other platforms, but I tried TikTok and just kind of put YouTube to the side, adjusted my strategy, and that's when things started changing. So honestly, I feel like there's no secret formula to figuring out that balance, but it's all about just kind of trusting your instincts. It's really
yeah,
hard to figure out, to be honest with
yeah.
you.
You have to test a lot of things. You have to try a lot. Yeah, because most of the times the things that work are stuff that you don't even know about, or maybe that you were not planning to do.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So if you want to talk content creation and actually get to the core of this podcast, for the people that don't know, KPI is key performance indicator, which is some sort of statistic, some sort of indicator that tells you that your content, for example, this is the type that works for you. So for Josh or to Sanya, what were, for example, the three factors that you decided upon? Okay, this type of content is the content that I need to make more of, need to improve on, or this is the content I want to make. Was it just you just wait for positive feedback, for views, for follows, or just what you enjoy doing most?
Great question. So it took time for sure. So I mean, in the beginning, like I know when I hopped onto TikTok, I was posting. I would take my YouTube videos and then I would chop them up and then I'd throw them on there, which wasn't really best practices because
Yeah,
you just do horizontal video. TikTok, it's all
yeah,
vertical. And then eventually I realized, all right, I'm not really gonna see success doing that. And so I started posting videos that were not even anywhere near related to what I do now,
yeah,
uh, and which was like a lot of just random videos. And eventually, I this was around June of 2020 on my birthday. So I'd hit about 100,000 on TikTok at that time, but it was all content that I was not passionate about.
yeah,
Uh, and so to answer your question, the first thing I did was I had to sit with myself and say, what do I want to talk about? What do I care about like making videos about? And I started from there. And I knew
yeah,
that YouTube and all the articles and stuff I wrote, I do have a passion for wanting to help people. I've done public speaking before, and I was like, okay, I want to help, but I also want to entertain, make people laugh, the comedy aspect.
yeah,
That's when I started. And then all the other, and I personally believe that while results may not come immediately, if you work from that place of making something that's true with who you are, it's going to come through in the content. People are going to feel that when they watch and engage. And like I said, while results may not come immediately, the KPIs, the metrics, views, and all that, it's going to look a lot better than when you're doing something that's not coming from an authentic place.
yeah, yeah. This is totally true, actually. And how did you decide on your niche? How did you? okay, so you understood that you wanted to combine helping people and entertaining them all at once, not like one video to entertain, one video to help. It was just all at once. You have a laugh, you learn something at the same time. But how did you decide that, okay, this is the exact niche I want to focus on, which is life advice, for example? Was it, for me, the best way to learn is by trial and error. So, what about you? How did you decide?
Yeah, so I feel like I gravitated towards it kind of early. There was some trial and error involved, but keep in mind, when I was making content in like 2016, like I already kind of figured out my niche back then.
Yeah,
So because I was doing it on YouTube, but before YouTube, it was just how outside of comedy, I realized that, for example, I'm the type of guy where people just typically like to ask me for advice, or people tell me a lot of secrets and things because they trust that I'll keep their information safe. But for whatever reason, people like some of the advice I give.
yeah,
so, so that is what kind of started me wanting to get into putting that kind of content out there.
yeah,
And and then when it came to TikTok and everything and getting more refined with it, it was really just like, how do I combine everything I like to do at once? I didn't want to get
yeah,
too
yeah,
only life advice or only comedy. I was like, I gotta find a way to make it all work.
yeah. True. And so, if you want to take advice from this specific story, how can people find their niche? What should they look for? How much should they try? When should they decide to like, okay, this is not working, this might work? What should they do?
Great question. So the first thing I like to recommend to people is by yourself, write down however you want to go about it. Figure out what do you like to talk about? What is something that you could talk about, watch videos on, educate yourself on for hours and you're not bored? It's something that
Yeah,
genuinely interests you. So figure out a list of things that you really like to talk about. You could also ask friends and family. What do they see in you that you may not see in yourself? Are there things you're really good at that maybe you can educate others on? You can also look in whether it's YouTube to whatever it is, figure out, what content are you really wishing you could see, but you're not seeing anywhere.
yeah, true.
That's another way to go about it. But it takes a lot of, honestly, a little bit of homework and just try to figure out a list of things that you could talk about. And it doesn't even have to be something you're an expert on. It could be something that you could learn more about it as your audience is. You can
Yeah.
all learn about it
This
together.
is like the difference between creating content and documenting an experience, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Precisely.
yeah.
And if you can't figure out a niche after all of that, then just start. Just start creating content because sometimes the niche chooses you as well.
Yeah, true. This is true. But I think for a niche to choose you, for example, there has to be some sort of mutual connection. Maybe you have to enjoy it as well. Because there's a lot of content that you can now, for example, you, Josh, you can start doing another type of content that you hate, but that works and will get you all the views in the world. But because you're not enjoying it, maybe you won't be able to do it for more than a month, for example, even if it works. So this is, I think, something to maybe look into as well, because I went through it on TikTok. I tried once to create content similar to yours, do the two characters thing, so on. I did not enjoy it, not a single bit, but it got me a lot of views. But I stopped because I just did not feel myself in it.
I feel you, man. I mean, I can relate. Prior, if you like, if you scroll through my TikTok, my
Yeah,
content used to be, I was talking about zodiac signs and all that,
yeah, yeah,
which is not even anywhere near what I talk about now. But at the
yeah,
time, it was working, and I felt this disconnect inside where I'm like, look, I'm making this content, it's working, but I'm I don't really want to talk about this. I go on live streams, they're asking me about, oh, so what do you think about this zodiac sign? I'm like, it's not
yeah,
congruent. So you're right. I
yeah,
mean, so it takes a little trial and error, but yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely
True. And is it always okay to change? Is it always okay to start again?
definitely, at least in my experience, I know on TikTok specifically, I changed around multiple times until I
Yeah,
figured out what I like to do. So I recommend feel free to change it up. I like to tell people to not get too married to a niche. If they're feeling like it's getting stale or it's not what they like to do, feel free to change it up. You know,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with also like Gary V, right? He talks about how at the end of the day, you are your niche.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you are bigger than any niche you want to box yourself in. So because the people who are watching, they have multiple interests as well. So if you're talking about, life advice was like, hey, well, I also like football or soccer, right? Or I also love stand-up comedy, or I also love, you could talk about all these different things in a way that, oh wow, you're your own little niche that can't really be boxed in anywhere.
yeah, yeah. This is true actually, and as you said, not to be too married to a niche because sometimes even if it's working, you're gonna find it difficult to change, even if you want to change because it's working and so on. I don't want to change, so you just end up just doing it because it works. And you're not
Mhm,
enjoying it. You're not genuine enough and authentic in creating content.
mhm,
Yeah, and there's something that everyone, including me, you, maybe one can create content. No one cannot create content, but a lot of us want to be the best at what we do, want to stand out. I do not believe that there's someone who creates content or anything and will tell you, no, no, I don't want to be known. I don't want people to see me. I don't want to be the best. We'll be lying to ourselves. But let's say we have 10 people creating the same type of content. We're not the only people on the planet who, for example, create in a certain type of niche, a certain way of doing content. But how do why? Okay, I'm gonna ask you a personal question. Why do I see Josh Otusani on my TikTok 100 times and not other people who, for example, make again life advice content? For example, how do you stand out?
yeah, it has to. I believe that the more you double down on yourself, the more you will stand out to people, whether you realize it or not. So, for example, that little laugh I do at the end of my videos,
Yeah,
that was not something that I planned. That so I do stand up comedy, right? I have a few jokes where I have a couple characters that make that laugh in the
yeah,
jokes, and I know they do well on stage. And I made a video where randomly I just threw it in there, and that started everyone's, oh no, this is amazing, you got to keep going. That
yeah,
came organically. Or even it could be anything. It could be the way you dress, it could be just how you naturally speak. Maybe you just speak in a way that people resonate with. People underestimate, like, you don't have to do anything crazy or wear a funky hat or anything to stand out. If you just be yourself and double down on yourself, there's things about you, there's small nuances about you that are different from the next person.
yeah,
And I think we underestimate how special we are in that regard.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you can use the people that watch you actually and see what they point out in you. For example, they tell you, Josh, this laugh is actually awesome, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't even notice. For example, okay, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people start relating it. For example, oh yeah, Josh, the guy that laughs after giving advice. For example, it's like it's where authenticity comes. It's like it's you, it's real. It's not like you're not trying too hard to fake a personality, because at the end of the day, we don't want to end up meeting someone live that knows us on Instagram or on social media that thinks of us in the end like totally different persons. I believe that we should be the same as we are off screen than on screen and so on.
I agree. I agree. If you stay true to yourself, you don't have to act like a fake person out in life, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's much less tiring actually if you just be yourself. You don't have to try hard. You don't have to like force yourself to create something very weird, very crazy, and so on. So so being true to yourself and doubling down on yourself can make you a point of authority, for example, on social media or in content creation.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe doubling down. Because I feel we all get overwhelmed with, especially because of this pandemic. There are more content creators than ever. Everyone's
Yeah,
posting stuff
true.
online, so it can feel overwhelming and intimidating to find a way to put out content about something you like when there are like thousands of other people doing the same thing, and maybe you feel, oh, maybe I'm not special, or maybe how do I stand out? Where I'm telling you, it's, if you just be yourself, and you don't even have to do anything crazy, just be you, be
Yeah,
yourself. dress how you like to dress, talk how you talk, like you talk with your friends, whatever it is, people will pick these little nuances. There's
Yeah,
some people who will follow you just because they like your speaking voice, or they just like how you dress, or they
yeah.
like, so it's we're more special than we.
One. Okay, okay. So Josh, I just wanna. Okay, I just came up with two other questions that usually happen before we want to start creating content. You know, there's a decision to make that, okay, I'm gonna decide to go on social media. And there are usually the two biggest challenges that we face, which is first one, the fear of being on camera, you know, of people seeing us, judging us, and all of this. And the other one is the lack of equipment, the right tools, whether it's actual equipment like a microphone, camera, or whatever, or just not being ready, a background, clothes, whatever. So how do we tackle each?
Yeah, great question. Definitely had to overcome both of those. So on social media, that's the thing. It's social media. So if you want any kind of success on social media, people are going to see you, friends and family are going to see you, and we kind of just have to be or comfortable with that. We have to accept that.
Yeah,
And I know for a fact that one of the reasons why I gravitated toward TikTok when I did was because no one I really knew was on it at the time. So I could kind of just post
yeah,
anonymously
yeah,
until it got to a point where people were seeing it that I knew. And then when I moved things over to Instagram, I noticed because I was afraid of posting videos on my Instagram feed because I don't want my friends and family and
yeah, yeah,
people I know at work to see. What are they going to think about this? I don't know. And the second I just said, you know what? The Will Smith had a quote where he spoke about he went skydiving and he was talking about how what was it? The other side of fear is bliss. Basically, the other side of fear is exactly what you want.
yeah,
And I know on Instagram specifically, when I said, you know what, I don't even care. Look,
yeah,
people are gonna make fun of me. Great. People are gonna hate on me. Great. They're not people I'm gonna associate with anyway. There's gonna be people who support or be inspired. On the flip side, I just sort of posted everything on there and stopped caring. And when I stopped caring, that's when everything on Instagram started going up too. Is having that realization. So it's easier said than done, but I encourage people to think about. We always focus on the negative. I encourage people to focus on the positive. What if everything that you could have ever imagined went right? What if all your
yeah,
dreams came true
yeah,
if you just took that first step?
yeah,
And then for the second part of your question, you don't need a lot of equipment to get started. If you have a cell phone, you can get started. I remember when I
yeah,
started
yeah,
posting videos on YouTube, I literally just had my phone and I would just set it up in front of my
yeah.
window.
You
I
just
put it
have
like
to work with what you have eventually. Yeah,
exactly. So you don't need a lot. You don't need the. In fact, oftentimes it's better to start with minimal equipment to see if it's what you really want to do before you just drop thousands of dollars on a fancy
yeah,
camera.
yeah. I totally agree, man. I made this mistake hundreds of times. I wanted to start something. I bought everything related to that, and once I started, I realized this is not what I want to do, and here I am stuck with all these shitty things I couldn't get rid of. Yeah. Yeah, this is a big mistake. And I want to point out when you talked about hate, you know, because a lot of times on TikTok, especially hate is can really stand out much more than the support, you know. And how do you actually deal with it? I'm pretty sure you got some hate along your journey. Maybe you still do. But how do you deal with it? How do you overcome it? If sometimes on a certain piece of content, maybe when you started, the hate can be bigger than the actual support. How do you overcome it?
Yeah, hate is. It used to really bother me like a year ago,
Yeah,
but now I've just the way I look at it is this: if someone is hating, they're not in a good place
yeah,
internally. It's very hard to hate or spread negativity to someone when you're happy, you're enjoying life, and things are going great for you. So if I see anyone hating on anything I'm doing, I feel empathy. I feel like, oh, I hope,
yeah,
they're doing well in life. I hope all is good. So personally, I never engage with it. I don't comment back and clap back at them.
Yeah.
I don't even engage. Sometimes I'll either ignore it or I'll comment back something from that place of empathy and love. Like, hey, I hope you're having a great day, and I appreciate you watching and engaging anyway.
Yeah.
Or depending on the comment, I'll just block and delete them. Because I also don't want the community that I'm having to get toxic or get if a few
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
mess with that community. I've seen people hop in some of my comment sections and just try to harass other people in the comment sections, right? So
Yeah.
I'll hop in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. It's a weird place, man. It's a weird place. What some
Yeah,
people do. Yeah.
exactly. It just comes from a place where I saw a video on TikTok once where the video was talking about haters, and then I read the comment section, and I was reading the comments, and one guy straight up said, he's like, "Look, I'm gonna be honest. I have a burner account where I go and hate on people, and the only reason I hate is because I'm just kind of depressed in life. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the creator." And I'm like,
Yeah.
exactly. You don't throw negativity and hate on people when you're good in life. It's very
Yeah.
hard to do that. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's kind of it kind of relates also to a quote or maybe a phrase that says, "No one will hate on you if they're above you," because
right,
they won't have time. Why would they even look down, for example, or get out of their way to hate on someone?
right.
So so for you, I think the best way to deal with hate is not to deal with it, or just not give it a piece of your mind.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
kind of depends on the severity of it,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
if it's just a little whatever comment, I might just ignore it altogether. I might respond back, hit them with some love,
yeah, yeah,
or I mean, depending on the comment, I might delete the comment, I might block them. Like,
yeah,
look, I don't want you following me if this is how you think or this is how you act. That's just
yeah.
that. Life is too short to be around toxic people or toxic behavior.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, that's true. And if you had the chance, for example, if the pandemic had not happened, what would you do instead? Have you ever thought of it? What maybe maybe you would create content, but at a later stage, or would you continue doing something you wanted to do before the pandemic?
Great question. I actually talked about it in a YouTube video I made last year. So if the pandemic didn't happen, I know I wouldn't be at this point right now,
Yeah,
man, because I was just too distracted. I was still My momentum was all about doing so many things at the same time. This is back when I was still in New York City, so I mean, New York is a city where there's parties going on. There's
yeah,
so many
yeah.
things happening.
It's a loud
I was
city. It's a loud city. Yeah,
Yeah, there's just too much. So I wouldn't be where I'm now. The pandemic sucked, but if there's one positive that it taught me was the value and the importance of really focusing on something with no distractions.
yeah, yeah. This is actually this is amazing actually, and the whole point of this podcast is actually awesome. It gave me a structure and a base of advice for what to do on social media, from the content, from how to find a niche, how to deal with hate, and how to actually start, and and it's actually amazing. But I want to go back, maybe, like, forget the whole thing about content, because we covered this, and I want to talk about you, for example. uh Stand-up comedy. You said
Yeah,
you did stand-up comedy. This, with the pandemic, I think it kinds of not ruins it, but maybe changes a lot the way you do it. If you were doing it on stage, for example, in front of live audiences, now you have to do it on social media. It's totally different game. But where were you going with it before social media? Or if you were to go big with it, would you still do it?
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
still on the checklist. It's
Yeah, I
just
want to ask you what's next. So yeah.
yeah, so number one, we got to get this pandemic out the way.
Yeah, yeah,
That is the biggest thing. Once that's out the way, I want to tour, I want to travel, I want to perform, and I want to do a mixture of public speaking and stand-up comedy and like some kind of tour or something and
yeah,
travel. Check
yeah,
out Lebanon,
yeah,
check
yeah.
out
You're welcome here, man. Anytime, anytime.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah,
just yeah, all the things that are possible post pandemic that
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to all that stuff.
yeah. I feel like it's coming. We're getting there eventually. And one thing about content again, how do you get credibility? I was just thinking of it, regardless of the numbers of followers or the number of likes, of the screen, how do you become a credible person?
So what do you mean? Do you mean acquiring information, or do you mean?
Yeah, it could be, for example, your type of content. Okay, you give life advice, you give tricks and life hacks, for example. But how did you get to become someone who people can like trust the advice or actually consider it or actually learn from it, not just watch it and so on?
Right. So what I found is that when you're creating content and you're not, I don't know, Dr. Phil or some other
Yeah,
famous person who
yeah,
has all of this media backing stuff behind them, it has to come down to the content that's you're putting out and whether or not it actually helps,
yeah,
right? And you have to build credibility that way. So whereas some people might be able to come into something and sell right off of their name and their
yeah,
brand,
yeah,
all this stuff, when you don't really have anything and no one really knows you, your stuff just has to be helpful to people in some way. I had a series on my channel once that is called Advice That Could Save Your Life One Day. And that I was reading comments and I was getting messages from people who actually somewhere in the world would take one of the videos I made and it actually saved their life.
yeah,
Just because, I mean, look, by sheer odds of numbers, there's going to be someone in life who's going to be in a situation similar to what I'm talking about in the video. They
yeah,
applied the advice. Oh wow, it saved their life. So it's if the information is valuable, if it's impactful, that over time builds credibility. So
yeah.
it's a little bit harder for all of us where we have to start from the ground up, but I think it's meaningful and helpful at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And one last question. Um, for the person that gives advice, who do you take advice from when it comes to you?
Yeah. So the way my life
Who
is,
or what? Of course. Sometimes we
yeah.
can, yeah,
So it's multiple things. So one of my favorite apps on my phone is Audible. I try to listen to or read
yeah,
at least 1 to 2 books a month. That's also where I get a lot of the content I put out. But a lot of my friends as well, I realize this, are older than me. So I have a lot of friends
yeah,
and people that are just older and wiser than me. They give me a lot of advice. To me, it doesn't matter how old someone is. If the energy matches and we can have a great and intelligent conversation. I've had really deep conversations with friends that are in their 40s and maybe I
yeah,
met them through work, like prior jobs I've had, and we talk for hours about life and becoming a better person, and they'll give me wisdom about lessons they wish they had when they were my age. So I take a lot of my friends are older than me, wiser than me. Yeah, in most of my circles I'm definitely the the younger person,
yeah.
so
And you think that's
yeah.
better, right? To be around maybe older people or more successful people or wiser people. No, it's better.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
think it's great. Not that you
yeah,
shouldn't have friends with people that are your age, but there's a lot of value to be had with people who have walked your shoes and have information they're willing to give. That's another thing I realized.
yeah,
Older people have knowledge and information they want to give. They want to, it's the same feeling I feel a lot of parents get when they have kids and they want to put all their wisdom and knowledge into their kids so that they can,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So before that, I tell you thank you for the podcast, Josh. I just want you to conclude it with a piece of advice for everyone who's thinking of starting to create content, who's lost, maybe confused about the content they're creating, or any decision they want to take in their life.
absolutely. Be bold, be confident. Be bold and be confident.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but don't worry about what everyone may or may not say. You're going to be judged if you don't do anything, and you're going to be judged if you do something. So you might as well do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's what I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. So man, thank you so much for the podcast. It's been awesome. A lot of advice, a lot of structure, and we could learn a lot from it. It's gonna be on YouTube most probably next week. And for everyone who wants to check out Josh, you're gonna find every link to his social media channels in the description. He's an awesome guy, amazing content, and thank you again, man.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Yeah.